Welcome to Kim Talks Resilience, where we share stories of insight and inspiration in life, love, and business with resilient women from around the world. Speaking with authors, entrepreneurs, founders, and coaches to learn their strategies for a more resilient life so we can all build the life we love. I'm your host, Kim Hayden. All righty, welcome back. I am grateful, as usual. I am always grateful that you're choosing to spend and share your time with me. I have the opportunity of kind of journeying through other people's experiences and lives, and part of the thing that I'm at a stage and place in my life is, wanting to travel, wanting to, you know, we hear that catchphrase, live a more authentic life, live a life that's your purpose and your passion. Being a Gen Xer and married to a boomer, that wasn't what was told to us. That wasn't what was preached to us. It's get a job, work 35 years, get your pension, and the world is different. So there's a lot of us that are sitting here going, who do we learn from? Who do we watch if we want to achieve? I heard a great stat the other day. I think it's 54 countries in Europe now have digital nomad or nomadic visas. So if you're on the road and such, you can actually go and live in Albania, which is one of the most beautiful countries over there. And it's actually one of the top rated countries to live and work in. So I'm really excited to dive a little bit deeper of how do we live truly authentically? How do we live the life we really want? And I guess move away from some of the scarcity or uncertainty fears when we do choose a path that's a little less trodden. Uh, Chiara Mason is the founder of, get this, Chiara Goes Global. ChiaraGoesGlobal.com. She's a host of Chiara Goes Global podcast. She's a lifestyle blogger and an award-winning author. She grew up in the Okanagan region of British Columbia and has loved writing from a young age. Through journals, songwriting, blogging, and poetry, the written word has always allowed her to express life, experiences, and lessons. She hopes you'll find connection with her words. When she isn't writing, you'll often find Chiara jet setting to explore a new place or practicing the art of wine drinking. Now, for those of you who know me, you know the art of wine drinking. I was just saying to Chiara, I didn't realize there was an art. I just drank it. Welcome to the show.
So true. Thank you so much for having me, Kim. Really excited to be here.
Oh, I'm excited to learn from you because you're living a life that a lot of us want, but we're afraid because it's not what has been preached to us or taught to us or ingrained into us. Let's start first with who is Chiara?
Yeah. So that's me. I am primarily a writer, I would say. So I've been doing the blogging thing for a little while. I have my own podcast as well. And then recently released a poetry book, which just came out almost a year ago now, last May. So very exciting new work with that. And I'm trying to focus as much of my energy as I can on different creative pursuits, especially writing, which is something that resonates with me a lot.
I have to ask, you're a redhead, aren't you?
Yes.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
I have two redheaded sons, and I'm a little partial to redheads. So they always
Thanks.
seem to have some good spunk to them. Um,
Yes.
so you're doing that kind of trifecta. So when we talk about media now, it's like
Mhm.
being omnipresent. You have to write it, visual, and audio. It all has to come together, and you've got that whole thing. So let's talk about Chiara Goes Global. First of all, how did you come up with this? Like, and how do you do this? Like, everybody always wants to know, how do you make money on a podcast? How do you make money on a blog? There are over a billion blogs globally, 37 million YouTube channels, and 4 million podcasts. Now, those 4 million podcasts, only a couple million are active at any given time. So how are you paying for your plane tickets? How do you take Chiara Goes Global and turn this into a business that allows you to share your journey with everyone?
Absolutely. So that is something that I'm working on right now. In terms of the blog side of things, I run a lot of ads and do some affiliate partnerships. And then the podcast, I am still working on getting that up and running. I am in the third season now of the podcast, but they're pretty short seasons, only about 20 episodes each. And a lot of them are solo casts where it's just me chatting about different topics. So that's definitely still a work in progress. I do typically do some work on the side as well. And then my book has been a big one in terms of getting the word out, getting obviously payments for that, and continuing to fund some of my creativity.
So it's truly that whole, you know, multi-revenue. We talk about the hustle economy. Um, w Give us an idea as to some of the places that you traveled and you've been able to share that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how Kiara Goes Global initially started was actually as a travel blog. I was living overseas at the time in the UK. I was a university student, so I did an academic exchange over there for a semester. So, I was living in the UK and I got to travel around the UK and Europe a lot. And I wanted somewhere to share my stories. So, I came up with the idea of creating a travel blog, and then it's just grown from there over time. So, primarily, my travels have been in the Europe area. I've done a little bit in Australia and then in Asia as well, and then throughout Canada and the US.
Okay, now have you done any of the trains? I always see the ones where somebody's on a train in Europe, and they look so cool. Or there was also the boats, the what the long skinny boats that they do throughout England or somewhere. Like, what's the coolest mode of transportation you have taken?
Good question. When I was a student, I was definitely opting for the cheapest mode of transportation. So I actually did a lot of overnight buses around Europe, which was quite common at the time. But I would say one of the coolest experiences I've had was taking a train when I was in Australia down the coastline. That was really cool. You got to see all kind of the areas as well.
Cool. Cool. Yeah, I see those and it's like, and you really got just a few times in life, I think although I'm seeing more young families live a
Mm,
nomadic life. So
yeah.
I don't think the old rules of what was was ingrained with me of, like I said, work that 35 years and get the pension and then you retire and sit around and wait to
Mhm.
die. Um, Sorry, guys. I'm not saying that everybody who retires is just sitting around waiting to die. It's just that I think that the world has shifted because I'm now meeting people in their 70s who are building careers and
Mm,
they're doing travel blogging and stuff. And it's like,
yeah.
this is just so cool. And I always look at it, how do we still have to be able to pay for the plane tickets. We still have to be able to
Mhm.
do all of that, right? So, um, what are some of the like in moving forward? So you wrote a book. I want to
Mm.
go through the book a bit. I'm going to actually just bring up. It is award winning. Congratulations! Pretty awesome. I love this
Thank you.
picture. I love this picture. Um,
Me too. Yeah, that looks great.
tell us a little bit. What is the book about? And what does the audience get from the book?
Absolutely. So it is a poetry book and it's a seasonal collection of poetry. So where I live here in BC, we've got those 4 very distinct seasons: summer, fall, winter, and spring. And so that's how I split up the book, was into those 4 different seasons. So it really does take you on a journey through that entire year, through those 4 different seasons, and all of the different growth, changes, and transitions that happens during that time. Could be in anyone's life and could be just with changes in general. So it definitely deals a lot with, there's topics of grief, topics of mental health, topics with your own self-worth, growing and learning from that. And so those are all thematically explored in the book. And my hope is that when people read it, they can either identify to it in some way or at the very least know that they aren't alone in whatever it is that they might be feeling in their own life challenges or struggles.
What do you where do you see people wanting to have this book in their life? Is this like something that people are getting as gifts? Is this a
Mm.
grad gift, wedding gifts? You mentioned grief, right? So,
Mhm.
um, where do you think that your book fits within the literary world?
Yeah, I think it's a good fit for anyone that's going through transitions in their life. So maybe not a wedding gift, but for anything else, either if you're transitioning from being a student going into the working world, or maybe you're navigating a relationship, maybe you are having kids, transitioning into a different phase of your life. Any point at which you're going through big life changes, I think it can be a really helpful companion for things that come up during that time.
What are when you sit and write poetry, like,
Mhm.
where are you at mentally? Like, how does this come together for you? And is this something that you've done your entire life?
Yeah, so for this book specifically, it is actually a collection of poetry that's pulled over a big period of time. So I started writing poetry when I was in high school, which for me was like 10 years ago. So some of them are from that long ago, and some of the pieces are from a little bit more recently, just from a couple of years ago. So it's really pulling from a big time period in my own life. And so pulling that all together was a really interesting process for me to see how the poetry would fit together. I wanted it to tell kind of that journey throughout those 4 different seasons. And so I can't necessarily speak to where I was at for each specific poem because some of them were from so long ago. But for me personally, writing has always just been something that I do to process how I'm feeling and different things that I might be going through. And so it's really just a way to work through my own emotions.
Was there somebody in your childhood, your life, somebody that cued you into the power of the pen?
I don't know if I would say cued me into it. I think it was just something I started doing, to be honest. Like, I remember writing in journals from basically as soon as I could start to write. So it's been a long time, but my mom was definitely an encouraging force who said, "Oh, I feel like you're going to be a writer one day." And now here we are.
And here we are. Here we are.
Mhm.
Um, you just mentioned your mom, so let's go down that path just a little bit. So when we take a look at the journey, so let's go back 10 years, right? If you were to talk to grade 9 Kiara, right? What would be the advice or the insight that you would give yourself?
I would just say to keep writing. I think there's a little bit of a part of me that is a bit sad that I didn't do this maybe earlier. Of course, I think it had to happen at the time that it happened, but I do think, especially when it comes to the creative worlds, there can sometimes be a lot of pushback from people, or you might think that it's not something that's really worthwhile for you to do. But I just think it's so important. And like I said, it's something I maybe wish I would have done sooner. So if you are in the position where you're a teenager or you're experimenting with different forms of creativity, I just encourage you to keep doing it.
It's interesting that you say that because I see a lot of women in their 40s and 50s who are just now starting on that journey.
Yeah.
Um, and I like the fact that you said that even though you may have felt that you should have done it sooner, that when you did it was the right time. And I do agree. I think things present themselves that way. Um, let's go down, like, so where are you planning to go with this? So this is you're building a business around this, right? And I did talk in the opening a bit around the digital nomad, how we have 54 countries. I know that you can get a digital nomad visa to Mexico now, and you can get, really, I think Canada, the United States, Australia, they don't have it as of yet, but I think it's all coming.
Yeah.
Um, but the world is getting far more nomadic. People are
Mhm.
traveling and experiencing. I think maybe COVID was a real catalyst for a lot of people. You know, you lock them down for a while, then they go crazy for a while, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
you know, where are you going with this journey? Because I mean, you still got, you know, 30, 40 years ahead of you in your journey, right? There's so much yet to be experienced. Where are you looking at? Let's just bring that down into the next 5 years. Where does Chiara Goes Global over the next 5 years?
Yeah, so I would say more immediately right now I am working on my second poetry book. So that is kind of my main focus for I guess next couple of years hopefully and hoping to put that out sooner rather than later. So that is my big focus right now, but of course I'd love to travel more. I really want to go to some areas I haven't been to yet, like South America, for example. I haven't had the chance to go down there, and so that's pretty high up on my list. I don't know if I would live abroad again at this point in my life, but I'm open to it. Definitely want to keep traveling though, for sure.
Well, you're in BC, which is a pretty beautiful place, right?
It is, yeah.
So, you guys are coming into, all the fruits and the all the berries into the Okanagan area, which
Mhm.
leads us to obviously wine country. Now I know that this year's going to be a little more challenging in BC because they had a late freeze, early freeze, something happened, and I know that there's been a real impact on the wine. But in general, BC, British Columbia is a great place to go for wine tasting and such, right?
Mhm.
So you say that you are the art of wine drinking. Would you ever do a an accompaniment book, a book of poetry around wine drinking, or like? I'm just
You
curious how
never
wine
know.
drinking. You never know. It could be very interesting. It's like, oh, this goes
Yeah.
with your wine, right? But you know, you say the art of wine drinking. What does that mean to you?
I mean, to me, it can mean anything, really. I grew up in wine country, so it's definitely something I've grown up around. My family's also Italian, so something that's kind of built in to us, I guess. But yeah, I think there's an art to it.
There's an art
Any
to
way
it.
you want to drink your wine, there's an art to it. So,
I like the fancy glasses. I can never pass
yes,
up a cute, stemless, wine glass that has a funny saying on it. My kids
exactly.
just look at me and go, "Mom, seriously?" It's like, "Just think of all the things you're gonna be able to get rid of when I die." I said, "Here's your legacy." Um, you know, when we move forward, how talk let's talk real quickly because a lot of people do want to publish a book. Are you self-published? Did you go through a publishing? You're self-published. Can you share with us a little bit on your journey on that? Like, how long did it take you to put this together? What was like your biggest kind of aha moment in doing this? It's like, ah, had I not, or I wish I would have.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am self published, but I did work with a self publishing agency. They were actually based out of Vancouver. So they helped me with a lot of, I guess, the logistical pieces in terms of getting an editor, getting a designer, really putting it together as a book. I wasn't really sure how that was going to all come together. And they were a huge support with that, which was amazing. I would say the whole process from the time I started with them to the time that my book was published, it was just under a year. So it did take a lot of time to go through the editing process, designing, and just getting everything logistically ready, getting books printed, sorting out Amazon, things like that. And there's so much I didn't know going into the process. So it was really helpful to have that support throughout it.
Yeah, I know that the tools are out there and it's getting easier.
Mhm.
Um, I've been part of a couple multi-author books just because to sit down and write and do an entire book is just time-wise for me is like daunting.
Mhm.
Um, and yes, the book took you a year, but as you said, many of the poems can date back upwards of 10 years.
Yes.
So, and you're looking at over the next couple years developing your next book. Any idea what the name of that one's going to be?
I have a title in mind, but I'm not going to release
No,
it just
not gonna
yet.
share yet. I
Not
have
quite
to
ready to
ask.
share it yet, but it'll
Yeah.
be coming soon. I mean, optimistically, I'm hoping for sometime next year, but I'll have to see depending on dates and timelines. Again, I'd be working with an editor and a designer, so can't control all of the timelines per
Yeah.
se, but we'll see how it works out. Yeah.
And then, you talk about your podcast. Let's go through your podcast. What's the name of
Mhm.
your podcast is Chiara Goes Global. And what platforms can we find that on?
Yeah, it's called the Chiara Goes Global podcast, and it's
Okay.
on anywhere you get podcasts, really.
So
Spotify,
it's
Amazon,
on
etc. Yeah.
all of them. And
Mhm.
you said that several of those were not interview style. They're,
Mhm.
you. So
Yes.
what does the audience get from your podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. So it is focused on travel, lifestyle, and well-being. Those are kind of the 3 pillars that I focus on. So there's actually a lot of content from my blog that is repurposed onto the podcast, just in case folks don't wanna sit and read a blog post, they can listen to it instead. So there's definitely a lot of that. So I do lots of recaps of places I've been traveling, talking a lot about well-being, and then in some of the more recent seasons, I have done a few interviews with other local self-published authors as well.
Very cool. And do you go to uh any of like women's events and speak around the your book or your journeys? Is there anything that you're doing in that space?
I haven't yet, but I would love to.
You would
So
love
hopefully in the
to.
future. Yeah.
I can see that in you. Okay, so let's go. I want to dive into the songwriting.
Okay.
This fascinates me. First of all, I always wanted to be a singer, but I can't sing. So, I can do Girl Guide songs really good, but
Perfect.
yeah, but that's it's like I watch this songwriting. So, that's a vehicle for potential revenue because I noticed that there's more opportunities through the digital space for songwriters to put original content out for creators to be able to purchase. Um, what are you doing within the songwriting space? Do you write for others? Do you write for yourself? Like what does that entail?
To be honest, I've never thought about it that way. I would say I'm not writing songs currently. I This was definitely something I did when I was in, like, elementary and high school, so they are at a different maturity level, I would say, I guess. So,
You're doing
what
Girl
I
Guide songs too.
yeah,
Awesome.
something like that. So, what I did is I actually went back through a lot of those older songs that I had written, and I pulled some of the content out for my poetry. So, I kind of repurposed it in a bit of a
Oh.
different way. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Mhm.
So, yeah, and you can see because I mean, music and poetry, the music, it all goes together. It all goes together. Absolutely. Um, and where are you off to next? Where's the next journey for you?
I don't have anything major booked in terms of travels. I'm gonna be doing a little bit this summer, just camping around locally around BC and might be going into Alberta a little bit, which will be fun. But nothing major planned. As I said, kind of my major focus moving forward at this point is working on my second book.
Just,
So hopefully that's
just
all gonna come to fruition. Yeah.
there you go. There you go. Um, when we're looking at, I'm going to put up so everybody can get proper spelling and everything. When we're looking at life, sometimes life is hard, but we all tend to go back to mantras, sayings, quotes,
Mhm.
something to help motivate us and keep us moving forward. What is a quote or a saying that inspires you?
Yeah, I don't know if I have a specific saying per se, but I do have two kind of guiding philosophies, I guess you could say. One of them is believing that everything happens for a reason. And so, as I talked about before, I think this played in a lot into my book and just for the timing of everything that has worked out in my life. I try to just believe that things are going to work out in the way that they're supposed to. And so, I tend to get a little bit anxious about things sometimes, but I try to just remind myself of that and that things are going to work out the way that they should. And that's just a really big one for me. And then when it comes to mental health as well, just reminding myself and reminding others that we aren't alone in what we're going through. And that was a big reason why I wanted to share my book of poetry as well. And I guess just a big reason that I share creatively in general. Yeah.
I do wanna say that your cover on your book is beautiful. Um,
Thank you.
you said that you had, the cover work done? Was that
Yes, I
you or
did.
did you Yeah, I
It was not
love
me, no.
those. No?
Yes, this is
It's
actually the number 1 comment I get is about the cover. Everyone loves it that sees it, which is great. I loved it too when I first saw it. I had kind of an idea for what I wanted it to look like, but my designer was really the one who made it come to life, and she did an amazing job. It's so good.
She absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I look at it and go, "Man, it's just the colors are beautiful," and it's just
Yeah.
like it's just a really it's inviting. I think that's the word.
Mm.
It's inviting, and you've won an award. So, winner of the Canadian Book Club Awards. How First of all, how does somebody get an award? And, uh, was this like a campaign that you got all the troops to rally around you, or share with us how you got that?
Yes, so this specific award is from the Canadian Book Club Awards. So it's actually a Reader's Choice Award, which is very cool, and that was kind of the part that I liked the most about it. So you can submit it yourself to be considered for the award, but in terms of the I guess, the adjudication process, they have readers across the country who will actually read the books in each different category. So obviously mine was in the poetry category. You would have to apply to be a reader. You get to read the books that are in the category that you like, and then you essentially vote on your favorites. So I made it into the top 3 finalists, which was already crazy, not something I had expected at all. And then I found out that I was the winner of the award in this past December, so quite recently, and that was a huge deal for me and just means a lot to know that readers who are reading my book across the country are really resonating with it. That was very special for me, for sure.
Very cool. Very cool. Well,
Mm.
there's uh during the winter here in Canada, nothing's nicer than sitting with a good book and a cup of hot tea. And during the summers out by the lake or camping, again, a good book is always a good companion. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Kiara, I really appreciate your time today. And we can get your book, Amazon. Do you and on your website, do you have any instructions on where and how? Is there anything else on your website like that we can leverage?
Yeah. Yeah, you can actually purchase it from my website directly if you'd like. Through that route, I only ship within Canada, so if you're international, you'd wanna get it on Amazon, and then I have some local spots in the Okanagan as well. If you're local to this area, you can get it in person from a few different spots, and those are all listed on my website too.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Make sure you guys check her out on Chiara Goes Global and that's Instagram. That's all the different platforms, correct?
Yes, Chiara Goes Global on everything.
Chiara Goes Global on everything. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And you know what? If you're looking to live the dreams, you're looking to do something for you, don't let fear of the unknown stop you. Just grab pen, paper, start putting those goals down, and get out there and check out the world. It's a pretty cool place. Thank you, Kiara.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kim.
And watch my super duper outro. Thank you for joining us here today at Kim Talks Resilience. I'm your host, Kim Hayden, and I'd love to invite you to our resilient community at resilientgift.com. That's resilientgift.com, and we'll send you our magazine and tickets for upcoming events and all sorts of cool things we do here. So be sure to keep watching. And you know what? Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share, because we all know that sharing is caring.